Hey guys, welcome to my patch 9.1 patch notes rundown. It's the first patch of 2019 and I'm going to try to do a patch note rundown for every single patch of 2019. So here's the first one, let's go. So Kalista, base AD, AD growth, attack speed growth increase, W, Oathsworn AD bonus removed, Q damage increase, and E deals less damage to epic monsters. So problem with Kalista was she was really strong in pro play due to her rend being like a better smite, and also she was kind of like a utility AD while still being a carry. Being able to pull supports out of danger was a super powerful spell, and when comboed with something like an Alistar or a Thresh, she was a monster to play with. Her like gank setup was incredibly good, her team fight was incredibly good. So it looks like what Riot's trying to do is take away a lot of her utility and a lot of her pro play strength and put it into her like selfishness. So she's stronger as like a soul carry, and she doesn't have to really worry about playing with her teammates as much, which I particularly like a lot because I think Kalista's a super interesting character with her mini hops for passive, and I would like to see her played more and not be like a complete monster in pro play and unplayable in solo queue. So they're increasing the Q damage, which is pretty important. Auto Q, one of the core combos of Kalista. Damage it seems small across the board though. The base stat buffs are where it's going to be really important. And I do think we're going to see more in Kalista's in solo queue. She is a monster when played well in solo queue. She's very mobile, hard to hit with skill shots, and you can pretty much carry the game by yourself. And then now Rend is no longer a better smite. Okay. I think overall, I love these changes. I would love to see her more in solo queue, and maybe she returns to pro play in a more healthy manner where, yeah, like it was kind of bullshit because like if you had a Kalista, right, you could start Baron and Dragon, and long as you got enough E stacks on the Baron or the Dragon, it would be near impossible for the enemy to steal it. And she was strong in lane and strong with gank setup. She just had way too many strengths, and it seems like Riot is isolating her strength into being more of a carry, which I like. Good change. Okay, Ornn, let's see. Base durability increased. Ornn's items upgrade at level 13. Holy shit, 2 max. And he can upgrade one ally's item per level at 14 plus. More upgrades added. Q cost damage slow decreased. W doesn't shield but makes Ornn unstoppable. I really like that. R slow knockup decreased. Holy shit. This is actually a big change. So let's read what Riot said. While Ornn doesn't have a lengthy track record of competitive problems as a Kalista, he's similarly shown much stronger results in pro play. He has no losing matchups when strong, making him a safe choice in any comp, and his ult locks enemies down from a distance so allies can clean up the kill without Ornn actually having to do his job as a tank. We reduce these strengths and investing that power into Ornn's passive. Switching to a free upgrade system gives Ornn a unique ability to jumpstart the item scaling for both himself and his team. Rather than delaying progress towards full builds, upgrading an item is now pure upside. Okay, so basically this is what tank champions do in pro play. Whenever you pick a tank in top lane, here's what the tank gives you. You don't have to play towards it, and mid game, late game, you get a front line and you usually get a really good engage. But when you think of tank engages, they're usually very telegraphed and they're not very long range, like Sion charging in. Like while the range itself is long, it doesn't like start from a very long distance. Like you have to, like you physically have to dodge a Sion, or like a Maokai W, like you see the Maokai. The incredibly strong thing about Ornn was he'd be able to engage from like such a long distance, and he's also tanky. And regarding his passive and his upgrades, a lot of the times like upgrading items was a trap. And you never wanted to upgrade items until you were at 6 or 5 items. Now, this way, it's always an upside for Ornn to upgrade items. So, yeah, a lot of healthy and good changes. Ryan's killing it with the 9.1 patch notes so far. And I really like giving Ornn the unstoppable back, because what W did is, W, for those of you guys don't know, W is where Ornn breathes fire at you. He goes roar, and then he gains the shield. And then it puts his passive brittle on you, and he can like donk you. So it used to have unstoppable, but they removed the unstoppable. Now they're removing the shield and giving back the unstoppable. So yeah, it's I actually really liked Unstoppable on Ornn. It was a way to display skill, and it was a fun mechanic. It was like you get a brief moment of unstoppability. So overall, like really good changes. Looks like a lot of base stat buffs. What the fuck? Ornn now gains 10% additional armor and magic resist from items. Holy shit, Ornn's gonna be like a late game monster. Not only is he gonna be super tanky late game and have upgraded items, he's gonna be able to upgrade his allies' items too. Wow. What the hell, man? The removing of W giving shield makes Ornn more playable in lane also. Like you can play versus Ornn as like an enemy champion. If a Q pillar is about to expire when Ornn casts E, it now lasts until Ornn's dash is complete. Okay, so here's what used to happen. So Ornn's Q makes like a pillar, and his steering charge is like a charge forward, and you could bump yourself into the pillar and knock up people around you. But the problem was, the pillar only lasts for a short duration. So sometimes people would make the Q, and then they don't know the Q would disappear, so they would E forward, and the Q would disappear, so they wouldn't knock up, and they would just be in the middle of the enemy team or like middle of the enemy laner. Now this way, that will never happen, so it's more of a quality of life change. I actually love all the changes Riot's making. 10% scaling up to 40%, 60%, 80% based on the distance travel. So when it first starts coming in, it's not going to slow as much. Really good change also. Man, right? I love all these changes. Like, I used to look at Riot patch notes and be like, what the fuck are you guys thinking? But a lot of these changes I agree with and I think are good for the game. Ooh, Sejuani. This is going to be a difficult one. Let's see. Base durability increased. What? You didn't think she was tanky enough? Base durability increased? Passive grants fewer stats, but lasts longer. Okay, okay. Q damage increase. W2 damage increase, but the slow falls off immediately. E deals more damage, but range and stun decreased. So here was like the problem with Sejuani in pro play. Sejuani was just so incredibly tanky when she had her passive up, and she could walk into anything and not be scared, because there was no way to really deal with the Sejuani when she's walking up. She was so incredibly tanky. She brought so much crowd control that you just kind of had to let her walk in and deal with her teammates and kind of ignore Seju. Or you mess with her early game to make sure she can't stabilize and get going. Okay. Third in our powerful and pro weekend regular lineup is Sejuani. The broad angle of approach for these changes is reduce crowd control and increase damage to make Sejuani's success less dependent on ally follow-up, or setup in the case of melee allies priming E. We're also reducing Frost Armor's massive spike of defensive to extend its duration and give Sejuani more of a baseline durability. This ties Sejuani's responsibility of soaking damage less to perfectly coordinated teamfight initiation, enabling her to be a better tank for her team throughout extended combat. Okay. So they're basically nerfing like the extreme strength of Sejuani and giving her damage and more. She's not incredibly tanky when she has her passive up. She's just more tanky like throughout, which I like better. Like she was just such an extreme character, and when you have a character with such extreme strength, like pros would know how to abuse it, and that's why champions would be incredibly strong in pro play and not that great in regular play. All right, let's see. Frost armor resistance, yeah, and then plus 25% bonus. Yeah, think of it this way. She used to get 20, 70 up to 120 armor and resistance. It was just so incredibly strong. It was so bullshit. A lot of her damages go up. Her E is like a really important one. So stun will only last 1 second at all ranks. Range is only 600, but the damage, like at max level, it went from 80 to 200. And you still get the icebreaker damage when it like shatters. So wow, she's gonna do a lot of damage. So all these champions, like especially for Ornn and Seju, like they were already seeing a lot of pro play, and they might see even more pro play. But even when they see more pro play, it'll be in a more healthy manner. So Riot just did a great job with these changes. E grants assist if enemies are previously unseen. I mean, this is more of a quality of life buff. Okay. W cast time now scales with attack speed. Nice. So problems with AD carries. So it's a problem with Jinx. It's a problem with Caitlyn. So later on in the game, it's not good to use your abilities. As a Caitlyn or a Jinx, I'm sure a lot of other AD carries suffer from this problem because your attack speed and your crit and your AD would be so high, it makes no sense to not attack and use an ability because your basic attacks were so much stronger. So now that your cast time scales with attack speed, later on in the game, it might be worse to use Zap still. So like that, it was kind of a problem with Caitlyn, kind of a problem with Jinx. I hope they do something similar with Caitlyn Q maybe later down the line, but these are like just good changes. QE combo can now be buffered. If Jace casts Acceleration Gate during Shock Blast cast time, he'll now ignore movement commands until both abilities have been cast. So, okay, how to explain this? Yo, 2Pound, can you link the video? So there was someone in my chat that said they have like a really good video for this patch note stuff. So okay, he said it's in the Discord. Let me go check it out and open it for you guys. Someone will probably explain it a lot better than I did. Okay, so these are after the changes. You see how he shoots, you see how it'll always do the QE combo even though he does the movement command. And then I'll show you guys the one before changes. Here's what it used to look like. Like even if you gave QE command and then you press move, it wouldn't go through. So that used to be problematic. Now QE will always fire off. And both are almost insta-cast, so it's just a quality of life change, and it makes it better. Alright, Katarina. E teleports immediately. Cast time now, entirely post-teleport. Hextech Gunblade active can be buffered. Okay, that's nice. So it makes her teleport instantly, like makes it easier for her to dodge stuff, and the cast animation is after she jumps in, and she can buffer Hextech Gunblade active to fire after Shumpo's cast time is complete. Okay, so how to explain this? So as a cat, you start using ult, right? And then you start spinning, and then you might use your Hextech Gunblade, and it will cancel you out of your ultimate. But now what this will do is it will not cancel you, and it will only do it after your ultimate finishes. Q stacks from large kill increased. We're increasing the reward good massive players earn for prioritizing last hits on big stuff. This doesn't affect stacks from small units, so the big dogs gotta land those cannons to make use of this buff. Plus 12. Wow, so plus 12 per champion, large minion, or large monster kill. Damn, D-Kane is coming at you. Champion hits don't reduce Q's damage. Hitting a enemy champion no longer decreases Boomerang's blade damage against subsequent targets. So, Sivir's Boomerang Blade, as you hit targets, it would do less damage, but now it doesn't do reduced damage for whenever you hit champions. Another quality of life change. All these changes are very small. Vayne, Q cooldown reduced while R is active. Holy fuck. This is actually something that's going to be problematic, I think. This is a spicy buff to Vayne and Vayne's mid and late game team fighting for players who can train enemy down during final hour without getting bopped in the process. To the Vaynes of the world, Vayne spotting is still a thing, so be careful not to roll yourself into an early grave. At the same time, don't be skittish. If you tumble without attacking, you're barely going to get anything from this buff. Wow. So, one thing that was really core to Vayne's gameplay is when you use your tumble, because some people just use tumble to maximize damage, but the better and better Vayne players would hold on to tumble to be able to dodge skill shots. And now that your tumble's cooldown is reduced by 50% while final hour is active, it's going to be on an incredibly short cooldown. So I've been practicing some Vayne and she feels good in the meta. Like Bork into Rageblade is an incredibly strong build. Yeah, this final hour thing is definitely going to push Vayne a lot more. So one problem that Vayne has is she overlaps with Kai'Sa quite a bit. Both are short-range AD carries that are dependent on invisibility and teamfights to really take full effect. And Kai'Sa right now is a better champion due to her ult being a way better playmaking tool than Vayne's Condemn is. Hopefully this pushes Vayne a little bit more forward. But yeah, like, what I really disliked about Kai'Sa coming out as a champion was she just shared so much similarities as Vayne. And now now both champions are getting stronger and stronger, and I'm just not sure how I feel about both champions like really coexisting, because they're just incredibly similar. Xayah, E root duration decreased from 1 second to 1.25. Poggers. I mean, quality of life change. What can you say? Very small buff. QW and EW combo can now be buffered. It's exactly the same as the Jace thing. I don't need to talk that much about it. Overall, all the champion changes were really good. Let's see what the jungle item changes. Unenchanted jungle items reduce gold received from minions if their owner has too much minion gold. Okay, so this is Riot just trying to tackle funneling again, because there were some funneling strategies coming back, especially with like the eteric stuff. I started to see that a little bit in solo queue, and I know some boosters are using that kind of strategy. Like, funneling overall is just so unfun for everyone involved, except for the two people playing funnel. If the funnel gets going well, the people on the receiving side of the funnel, it's so incredibly unfun to play versus. And for the team that's playing with the funnel, you basically don't have a jungler, so it's also unfun to play. While it might be a strong way to boost, it might be a strong way to play in pro play, like, it's just an unfun way to play League of Legends, and Riot wants to tackle that and remove that and make sure it's not a thing. So, I mean, overall, great changes. Funnel, when it exists in the game, is not healthy for League of Legends. Hail of Blade. This almost never got used. It got used somewhat for Rek'Sai and Jhin for a little bit, but this mastery almost never got used. So let's see what they said. Attack speed bonus, higher early, lower late. Attack resets no longer consume a stack. Part of the reason Hail of Blade has historically struggled to find a niche is that you're a champion who cares about attack speed, you usually want to go precision instead. Duh. RuneStat solved this tension but left the second unaddressed. Champions who wants to open fights with quick bursts of attacks have reset abilities that overlap with one of Hail's empowered attacks. We're changing Hail of Blaze to synergize rather than compete with attack resets. So like champions like Jax, right, that would want to use Hail of Blade because he wants to attack quickly. So like Jax's W would eat up a stack of Hail of Blade. And this way, now they can coexist and help each other instead of like competing for it. So we'll see, maybe we'll see more Hail of Blade users, like champions that wants to do damage in quick succession, something like so this is supposed to be used by champions like something like Jin Zhao. Jin Zhao wants to go in and then go 2-2-2. Rek'Sai wants to go in and go slap slap slap. Jax wants to go in and go douche douche douche. Like these champions that want to go in and then do quick flurry attacks want to use Hail of Blades, but it just wasn't strong enough as a mastery, and also how it was interacting with attack resets made it not synergistic. Okay, rune stacks. Attack speed rune stats increased 9% to 10%. I mean, thank you, Riot. I use attack speed runes a lot, so I guess thanks. Celerity, movement speed bonus multiplier increase. So Celerity is in a really weird spot. I'm not sure how much I like masteries like this, because like Celerity, it just amplifies an extreme aspect of a champion even further. And I'm not sure that's healthy for the game. Like you have these like Jins, like they do their 4-shot and they run at like 500 movement speed. Or like Ramesses rolling at like 1000 or like 2000 movement speed. I think it's so fucking shitty to have these champions that move so incredibly quickly. Like they were never supposed to break like 1000 movement speed mark or 1500 movement speed mark for Rammus, and these masteries allow champions to break it and like go even faster. While it might be fun and extreme, I'm just not sure how healthy it is for the game. I'm very worried about these kind of buffs to amplifying effects. So this is the first change where I'm like, fuck you, Riot, I don't like this change. Shield bash. I also don't know how I feel about shield bash, because shields inherently are supposed to be something defensive, and it turns into something aggressive. Like, oh man, some of these masters are so weird and quirky. Like these two I just don't like. Turret assist. Local gold proximity radius on turret takedowns increased. Additional radius for assists increased. Okay, this is gonna be a fucking wall of text. Let's read through it. Okay, so basically what they're doing is making the radius for where you share the turret gold much larger. That's how I simplify it for you guys. The radius where you share gold is much larger. It already worked like that for turret plating. Now it's gonna work like that for all kind of turrets. Long range abilities. Okay, so I'm not sure how many people know about this. So when you ping your ability, right? When you ping your ability, sometimes it will display additional information. And now what it's doing is whenever you ping Galio ult, it will tell your allies whether you are in range or not. So it just makes solo queue communication a little bit easier. Abilities with detailed information. So now you can ping your Draven passive and it'll tell your teammates how much passive you have. You can ping your Kassadin Riftwalk and it will tell your team how much time until Kassadin can Riftwalk again. It just makes communication better. Ooh, okay. Okay, so ability icon HUD. This is what it will do. So whenever you are playing, right? And then let's see something. Quirky E Gatling gun. Whenever you start using Quirky E Gatling gun and you go, it'll show you the duration of the Gatling gun in like a small buff icon, like where your buffs are. Like buffs like red buff, you know how you have the duration for the red buff, like the clock ticking. It will also show you the Quirky E like as a duration ticking. So now instead of it showing on your buff bar, it will show on your icon bar. So whenever you use Quirky E, your icon will have the timer like go around. So it just makes things more visually clear and you can get information from the big icons instead of the small buff bar. This is also quality of life change. A lot of bug fixes. We don't have to go about bugs. Blood Moon skins. I love the Blood Moon skin line. One thing I will say about prestige skins are, I think prestige skins, I loved how cool the Kai'Sa prestige skin was. Like, you would have to grind throughout worlds to be able to get this. But now it seems like there's like a prestige skin for almost every patch and it's kind of overdone. You know when Yeezys were cool because only a few people had Yeezys? And then Yeezys weren't cool anymore once everyone had Yeezys? It's kind of like that. Prestige skins were cool whenever there was like a very few prestige skins. And then now every champion and like at least one per patch note is getting a prestige skin. And it just feels overloaded and it doesn't feel rare and it doesn't have that prestige anymore. Yep. So that was my 9.1 patch notes. I hope you guys enjoyed.